Welcome to the debate. Today we are immediately confronting the really severe defensive crisis that's plaguing the Los Angeles Lakers. And this isn't just a small dip in performance. We're talking about a total ecosystem failure. It's highlighted by these recent collapses where they gave up 125 points, including, 28 points on counterattacks, and had 21 turnovers. I mean, the defense has been called a black hole, and frankly, that feels accurate.
Yeah, and I'd go a step further. It's not just poor defense, it's an intellectual failure. When your main creative players, Doncic, Reeves, LeBron, are responsible for 17 of those 21 turnovers, that offensive chaos just bleeds right into defensive confusion. I mean, it's instant. So black hole captures the result, but the cause here is structural.
Absolutely. And that structural breakdown brings us right to our core debate today. How do the Lakers stop this bleeding? Like right now, is the solution found through, major internal adjustments, demanding some courage from the coaching staff to finally change rotations, maximize assets they already have, like Jared Vanderbilt or maybe even the rookie Thiero? Or, and this is where I land, does the scale of this failure, the roster casting, as it were, demand an urgent, critical trade for a real 3-and-D specialist? I think we're past the point of hoping for internal miracles. I see why you think that, especially when you're looking at the loss column, but I still maintain that the Lakers have the raw defensive potential to fix this internally. It just requires prioritizing fit and courage over big reputations. My whole argument is that the focus needs to be on properly using the talent they already spent nearly $50 million on before they go and sacrifice future assets on a guy who might not even move the needle.
Okay, but utilization of whom? Precisely. You're asking us to bet the entire season on a player who is famously unilateral.
I'm talking primarily about Jared Vanderbilt. Look, the contract alone, 4 years, nearly $50 million, that reflects what the front office thinks his defensive ceiling is. Now, I'll be the first to admit his offensive struggles are profound. A negative offensive plus-minus, he shoots under 29% from three, and yeah, the turnovers can be frightening. You can't just plug him into the starting five and expect the spacing to work for your creators.
Right, that's not just a flaw, that's a structural impedance. He's a player who just cannot coexist with your core guys for long stretches.
Maybe not in that heavy starting quintet we always see. But, and this is key, we have specific data points we can't ignore. In limited minutes, small samples, I get it, but effective ones. With smaller, more athletic, and properly spaced lineups, his inclusion delivered an elite defensive rating, an absurdly high positive net rating. And, for our listeners, net rating is just a point differential per 100 possessions. A huge positive swing like that isn't a coincidence. It suggests the problem isn't talent. It's a catastrophic failure in rotation strategy. Coach J.J. Redick has to be willing to bench big names if he has to test these successful lineups first.
That's an interesting way to put it, but I would frame it very differently. Relying on 9 or 10-minute bursts of success to save a sinking ship is, well, that's the definition of desperation. The source material is clear. This is a deep structural problem. The Lakers are a team of unilateral players, and it's created a lost defensive identity. Your internal options are just too flawed, too fragile, or way too unproven for the urgency we're facing right now.
But if the data proves the potential exists, doesn't that demand they at least explore it properly?
Offensive liability and his turnover rate just make him unplayable with Doncic, LeBron, and Reeves for that long. The team needs immediate two-way balance. I mean, this reliance on the super trio is completely unsustainable when the rest of the squad is below average at defending a simple pick and roll. Only a trade for a player who can, unbalance both sides, a true 3-and-D fit, is going to provide the foundational change they need.
Okay, so let's dig into that. Point 1, the viability and yes, the risk of relying on Jared Vanderbilt. I hear your concerns about his offense and, more importantly, the shadow of his physical issues, the foot and knee injuries, the inactivity. Those are very legitimate worries.
And the team has already considered moving him, right? Precisely because his output doesn't match that huge contract, especially given how fragile he is. So how can you justify betting the season on an injury-prone player who the organization itself seems to be lukewarm on? You're advocating for a strategy that hinges entirely on the health and perfect tactical deployment of one guy.
The justification is in the proven defensive success.
even if the sample is small. I'd argue the data shows the issue isn't Vanderbilt himself, but that heavy starting quintet he was always paired with. Let's look even deeper than net rating. His positive defensive BPM, and for our listeners, box plus minus, is a stat that tries to measure a player's contribution over a league average player. It's significant. Only he, Doncic, and the returning Marcus Smart have positive defensive numbers among the regular rotation guys. That's not nothing.
A positive defensive BPM doesn't win you a game if his presence on the floor means 4 defenders can clog the paint because they know he's not a threat to shoot. You're focusing on the shots he stops while ignoring the offensive flow he grinds to a halt. Does one defensive metric really offset the guaranteed destruction of the offensive ecosystem around LeBron and Doncic? I'm just not convinced, because you're swapping a certainty for a hope. You're asking Coach Reich to bench established talent, probably Reeves, to maximize a fragile defender. That's a huge sacrifice.
But if the team keeps losing because they can't stop a nosebleed, that sacrifice becomes mandatory, doesn't it? The risk of unlocking that elite defensive rating is high, I'll grant you. But the reward fixing the defense without giving up any assets is worth it. If the Lakers have to bench a big name to find a fit that unleashes Vanderbilt's defense, that's a much better fix than giving up 2 future firsts for a marginal upgrade on the market.
And I just fundamentally disagree, because the structural casting issue is too deep for coaching courage alone to solve. Which brings us to point 2, the urgency, the roster casting, and this failure of unilateral play. You mentioned Marcus Smart is coming back. Look, his defense will help, of course, but is the problem really just better utilization? Or is this roster just inherently incompatible?
Well, the source material also says the problem is often about attitude and emotional control. The team shuts down when it loses emotional control. That points to effort and internal discipline, not just a lack of talent. You get Smart back in there, you get a more disciplined approach. That could solve a lot. Why are we assuming the problem is genetic when it might just be psychological?
Because structural flaws magnify psychological ones. I mean, sure, effort matters, but it doesn't solve the core casting issue. The Lakers are full of guys who either attack well but are sieves on defense, or they defend well but are unplayable with the main stars. This isn't about intensity. It's about a lack of functional two-way fit. If Vanderbilt doesn't shoot, spacing dies. If Reeves is your primary defender, the result is often poor. You want to rely on Smart's return, or a rookie like Thiero who hasn't even been cleared for contact yet? The West is moving. These defeats are piling up, and the damage is going to be done before these internal hopes ever turn into consistent 48-minute results.
So you're basically arguing that the pieces, as they are mathematically incompatible, no matter the coaching.
I'm arguing the compatibility is so fragile it can't withstand the pressure of a real title chase. And that instability dictates an immediate market solution. We have to pivot now. So let's talk about what that looks like. Point 3, defining what the market needs to deliver and what it's going to cost.
Agreed, if we accept the premise that internal fixes are doomed to fail, which is still a big if for me. What exactly does the market need to provide? And what are we willing to pay?
It has to be a guy who can truly unbalance both sides. When we say 3-and-D, we mean reliable, 38+% three-point shooting, and elite point-of-attack defense. A guy who needs zero maintenance on offense and provides instant stability on defense. It doesn't have to be a star. It just needs to be an immaculate fit. You look at the names being floated, Terrence Mann, Zaire Williams, Haywood Highsmith. That shows you the range. The dream but costly option is someone like Herb Jones. Now, to get a high-level fit like Mann or Jones, you're sacrificing a major asset. The Lakers have that 2029 first-round pick, which is incredibly valuable. To get a real two-way difference maker, you're probably pairing that pick with a role player, maybe a couple of second-rounders. The alternative is sinking right back into that familiar cycle of promises, expectations, excuses, and an early exit.
See, I agree on the profile of the player we need, a genuine two-way guy. But I fundamentally disagree on the urgency of sacrificing that 2029 pick right now. Why should we panic trade a decade of flexibility for a role player like Zaire Williams? I mean, they're upgrades, yes, but are they really game changers? We have to warn against bringing in yet another player who only plays on one side of the court.
Because the damage is happening now. If we wait until the deadline, the price for that player goes up, or he's off the market entirely.
The foundational design of this roster is the problem. Waiting for Vanderbilt to get healthy and for the coach to find the courage to bench someone is too slow for the West. A structural flaw requires a structural fix.
But a bad trade for a marginal improvement is worse than trying the internal fixes first. The board has to act with some honesty here and prioritize a real two-way player if they trade, not just make a move to say they did something. This whole situation reflects a deep lack of vision from the people in charge.
That lack of vision is exactly why I don't trust the internal solution. The coaching staff has had half a season to figure out how to use Vanderbilt, and they haven't. Why would the next 3 weeks be any different? The clock is ticking, and all the evidence points to roster incompatibility.
Well, my belief remains that the Lakers' path to respect and a title requires sacrificing some current comfort, maybe benching a big name, using their depth to unlock the defensive infrastructure they already have, centered on Vanderbilt's proven, if fragile, defensive ceiling. Consistency starts with courage, from the coach, from the front office.
And I'll reiterate that this crisis is too deep a lost defensive identity to rely on hopes and tiny sample sizes. Time is passing, the losses are piling up, and without making an immediate, definitive move for a true 3-and-D fit, this season is just going to slip away. We can't risk waiting for a fragile player to get back in form while the team is bleeding points every single night.
It's a difficult choice for sure, weighing the risk of patience and internal sacrifice against the risk of an imperfect and very costly trade.
Exactly. At the end of the day, the Lakers have to figure out who they are. Do they have the identity and balance to win, or are they just hoping for LeBron's genius to bail out these fundamental structural mistakes? Whether they choose the internal path of courage or the external path of a costly trade, it's going to require a lot of focus and some brutal honesty about what they're actually capable of. The listener has to weigh whether Vanderbilt's potential really outweighs the emergency that we're seeing on the court right now.